Thank you for joining us today. Now we're going to look at our Saffire LXP lock and how it goes on a door and what's included in the box. We've got our MP002-EENB-37L1 here. This is a LXP panic trim. It has electronic override. It's got the Vaughan lever with it. It's satin nickel with a black fascia. And it's a rim style panic device with the, it's made for the Dorman 9300. The bar's not included with this exact part number, but you can order it with the bar. But it's made to work with our Dorman 9300 rim panic device. So let's look at what's in the box. Open it up, we've got our lever here first, and there's only one lever for this since the panic bar is going to be on the other side of the door. So we've got that. We have a little template in the box that you can use to prep your door. We have a gasket in here. You know, exterior doors, probably where it's going to be, but not necessarily. You could have panics on your inside doors with this. But we've got a gasket here in case you're using it on an exterior door. I'm not going to be using that today, so I'm going to set it to the side. And we pack this thing in pretty well. We do have a big mounting plate here. This is the adapter plate to allow the bar to actually mount to this and our lock to mount to it. That way it gets all the screws out of the way so the lock and the bar aren't fighting with each other. So we've got that. We have our lock body here. Now, this is the height of our normal Saffire mechanical key override. It's got an electronic override in the bottom of it for the battery pack here, but that can be changed out with key override in here if we wanted to. We've got our battery housing here. I'll open it up. We have our pack of AA batteries, 3 AA's. And we've got our screw pack here with the different tail pieces, depending on what your thickness of the door is and all that, along with all the mounting screws. So, set this out of my way, and that's everything that's in the box. I'm gonna go ahead and open these screw packs up and set it over here to the side just so the pieces are ready when I need them. And I've got a nicely butchered mount here. I know it looks kind of funky, sorry about that. I didn't have an exact mount for the LXP, so I kind of butchered up an LXI mount to do this, but it's gonna serve its purpose. We're gonna put this lock on today as a left-handed lock because it is the L part number. So I'm gonna get all my parts here ready, set my batteries out and over here to the side so I'm ready for them when I need them. So first thing we wanna do is actually get this mounting plate on the door. The hole here, that round hole is the top. That's where the cable's gonna go through for the battery housing and all. So that's gonna go on the inside of the door. Now, like I said, I butchered this door up, but if you had these factory prepped, you're gonna have all your holes and everything in the right spot. So that plate's gonna line up on the door here, and I've got my inside housing that I'm gonna use. I've got to go ahead and snap my tailpiece into it. We have the L for left hand or R for right hand. I'm gonna snap this in lined up with the L for left hand, and I'm gonna put this in as a diamond, not as a square. Do not try to put it in this way. It's got to be set in like a diamond because that's what's actually going to match up. It's going to end up with a plus sign on this side when I do that because it's got a slight twist to it to match up to the Dorman 9300 hub right here. So I've got that handing set. I'm going to go ahead and guide this cable up the hole that I've got in the door. I'm gonna move my plate out of the way for a minute. And again, if you've had this factory prepped, it's gonna be a little bit easier than I've got here because this is just my butchered up door that I'm making work. All right, now that we have our wire through the door, I'm gonna go ahead and push the lock into the mount. And again, if you have this factory prepped, it's gonna go on a little bit easier. My holes and all are very, very tight because I just did all this by hand. Don't really recommend it. So you see I had to kind of beat it into submission there, but factory prep it, you'll be good. So we're gonna take this plate, put it on the door here, and this is what we will actually mount our lock to. We've got some 1/8 hex drive screws here that are gonna run in here, and I have the luxury of being able to set my door down on its side. You won't have that luxury in the field, but I'm gonna put these 2 screws in the top here and one down here in the bottom. That's the left-handed door. I believe on the right-handed door, this screw is gonna be sitting over here. So I'm grabbing my 1/8 bit, putting it in, running these in place. And you really, on your door, you're gonna want to run these just barely in. Make sure your lock is lined up nice with the edge of the door, that it's true to the edge of the door. Level doesn't really matter here. We want it true to the edge. And you know, my holes are so tight, it's kind of hard to do that anyway. But that's what you're gonna want on your site. Once you have all that lined up, tighten those screws down and we're ready to move on. Now I've got my battery housing here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on. I'm gonna loosen this screw. This is actually a T9 screw. So I'm gonna loosen it and take it off. I'm gonna go ahead and just plug this in, just kind of get it out of the way right now. Shove my excess cable back inside the door here. And again, if you've factory prepped this, you've got plenty of room to put that cable in there. And there's a couple of screws that I'm gonna run through here to mount this housing down. They're Phillips head screws, so I'm gonna change the bit out on my driver and run these screws in real fast. So those are in there. I'm gonna leave my batteries out for right now. I just want to get the housing up there. Now I'm gonna take this Dorma 9300 Panic, and I've just got the head of the Panic here because you know my mount's not gonna hold that whole thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the door. I'm gonna line up my tailpiece onto my Panic bar here. And I'm gonna take the screws that came with the Panic bar and run them into my plate. We're already set up to accept those screws, so those will not be in our box, they'll actually be in the box with the Panic device. Line these all up, get my screws started. And I'm gonna make sure everything's sitting straight and true. And I'm gonna tighten these up. So that's on. I'm gonna leave the housing cover off for just a minute. That way when I test everything, know it's all working, then I'll put the cover on. So I'm gonna set it to the side. I've got to put my handle on my lock. So I've got my lever here. This is a Vaughn lever. I'm gonna take my little set screw, start it into the lever. It's got a little bit of Loctite on it, so it'll actually hold in there really well once it's all said and done. That's a 3mm screw. Doing a lot of these, you may want to get a regular 3mm driver to run these in. But I'm gonna put my little spacer on here. Don't want to forget that. Put my spacer on, put my lever on, and then I'm gonna tighten this. That's on there. Now, let's go ahead and put the batteries in the housing. That way we can test everything. 3 AA batteries here. Put them in, I hear the motor whir to tell me it's on, and my goofy self was not paying attention, and I actually put the lever on backwards. Pay attention which way the lever's supposed to go on, folks. But it's an easy fix on this. Notice this is rehandable very easy. Nice to be able to show that. So I'll put my lever on the right way. Go ahead and tighten it back down. I can grab my construction credential, read it, turn the handle, and I actually see that it is retracting the latch on the door. This is our latch here. So if I read my credential, it is retracting the rim latch like we want it to. So I can go ahead now and put my cover on that. I've got the 4 screws that came with the panic device that I'm putting in here. I'm gonna run those in. And I get to turn my door around here. You can't do that in the field, but luxury of being in the studio. So I'm gonna put those on. I'm gonna take that battery housing, put that cover on there. Again, that was that T9 driver. Take it and line that up and run that screw in. Again, if you're doing a lot of these, you may want to grab just a regular T9 screwdriver. That way you're not dealing with this whole bulk. But we've got that in. One last test. Read my credential. The latch retracts like it should. Everything's looking good. We have our LXP device on the door. Thank you for joining us today.